So, the other thing with regard to Hesiod that I want to talk about is the figure of Pandora. Now, in the Theogony, there is an account of Hephaestus, at the ordering of Zeus, creates a woman who looks like a goddess, and then Athena helps sort of adorn her and get her ready to present her to humankind. Right? And this is presented as a curse. This is the figure that we know of as Pandora. Now, the name Pandora is not used in the Theogony at all, and the curse isn't just Pandora and her jar and her container that she opens and all the evils come out. Rather, it's womankind that is the problem, right? That's the way it's presented. So Hesiod has a separate work called The Works and Days, and this work is something like a farmer's almanac that deals with when to plant, how to build a wagon, various other things. But it also has stories about why do we have to work so hard at farming. The reason we have to work so hard at farming is that Prometheus gave fire to humans, and that got Zeus crazy, and then there was Pandora, and now we have all these difficulties. So in a sense, it's somewhat like the story of Adam and Eve and the fall. Why do we have human suffering and so forth? It's because they were in the garden, everything was lovely, then they ate from the tree of knowledge, and then they get kicked out, right? So then they live in the world that we know, and that world has pain in it. So the Pandora story serves the same function for Hesiod's audience. Now, in the Works and Days, we do get the figure named, and she is called Pandora. And Pandora literally means all gifts. Now, in the Works and Days, it is said that she is given this name by Hermes, one of the gods, because all of the gods gave her some gift. So Aphrodite teaches her how to basically be seductive, and Athena teaches her the practical arts of weaving and those sort of things that women would do. And Hephaestus, of course, physically created her. And the Graces give her flowers and other stuff to adorn her. And Hermes teaches her basically how to lie, right? Because he's a trickster god. So that explanation, I think, hides something, because the name all gifts could be used of nature itself, right? That nature is basically a goodie basket with all gifts. All the good things of the world are in nature, right? So that's where things come from. So nature would then be seen as a positive figure producing all these things. But if you're going to shift it and then make the story really about how woman is the creator of the problem, then you might still have the name Pandora, which perhaps refers to Mother Nature, who is all giving. But now you've twisted it to make her the bringer of all bad things, as opposed to all things, which would include good and bad. Right? On the good side, there are great things in life. There's great beauty, but there's death. There's sickness. There are other things that are not so great, but it's part of the package, right? So, and, if you think of it, connecting now with women, of course, everyone's born from a woman, and so in that sense, you can see where that connection would be. I think it's short-sighted, but that's, you can see where that might come from. So, what clues do we have in the Works and Days and in the Theogony to indicate that this might be a nature goddess figure who is now sort of transmuted into the first woman and therefore the source of all problems? I think we get it from this. In the Theogony, Pandora is decked out, and Hephaestus makes for her a crown, and on the crown are all these animals that seem almost alive. That seems to suggest that she is a nature goddess, because there are nature goddesses who have a crown or a turret on the top of their head that have animals, right, associating them with animals. there's a similar thing in the Works and Days account where she's decked out with flowers, which indicates nature, and also she's decked out with jewelry that has animals, again suggesting this connection between the figure of Pandora with nature itself. That's sort of lost in Hesiod's account. Now, Hesiod's not consciously changing anything. This, he's getting a lot of this stuff from his tradition. He's presenting it. So he may not know that, but I think the name Pandora does suggest this connection with nature, but then it's transmuted into woman as the bringer of bad things. And that's made clearer in some ways, or it's made in a different way in the Works and Days. Because in the Works and Days, she has a jar. It is a jar. It's a pithos, which is a jar. The reason that the word box, right, Pandora's box, comes about is because a man named Erasmus, who was one of the Renaissance humanists, he, in translating, thought that the word pithos meant pyxis, which is like a box that you would have ointment in, a little box, and he translated it that way, then using the Latin word that would suggest an actual casket or a box, like a hope chest. So there's that move to a box because he basically mistranslated the word from Greek into Latin, using a Latin word for a box. But it is actually a jar, which is what the Greeks generally used for containers. You had wine in jars, you had grains that were stored in jars, you had water that was stored in jars. So this is the common storage thing. But the interesting thing in that story is the jar has only evils in it, but one of the things that's in the jar is hope. But hope doesn't get out because she slams the lid back on it, so hope doesn't get out. Well, is hope an evil? Or is it a good thing that didn't get out? But if it's a good thing, did the jar have both good and bad things, which would be the way the world is, both good and bad? Did it somehow get twisted to just bad? I don't know. But that Pandora story, in that account, the account in the Works and Days, it's clearly Pandora letting loose all sorts of terrible things, disease and death. In the Theogony, it's womankind as a whole that is the problem, and it's chiefly a problem that womankind takes but doesn't give, right? Takes all the benefits of being connected to a man who's working real hard, but doesn't contribute to the effort, right? So she's basically like a parasite. So that's a little bit different take. In one, you've got the first woman causing the problems, and the other one, it's woman that is the problem. And it's not just the first woman, it's all women in a sense. Although Hesiod does say, well, yeah, every now and then, you get a good woman. I was like, yeah, thanks a lot, buddy. But I did want to give you that background as well, because there is more complicated stuff going on. It's tough to get that out of the text, and sadly, I think Maurizio could have brought some of that stuff in, but space-wise, you got to decide what you're going to include in your book and what you're not going to include, and that got left out. But I think it's important. So I don't know how many more of these videos I'll be doing over time, but I think as we come across things that I think might be confusing, I'm going to do like a little video so you get some sort of extra help or insight, or at least my view on it.